MSN College Football Halftime Report. MSN, everything you need to feel at home on the web, all in one place.
This is the MSN Halftime Report. John Saunders and Terry Bowden. You start off every college football season with a lot of questions. One this year, was Miami really back? That one's been answered. Today you get another question asked. How good is Virginia Tech without this man? Michael Vick hobbled with the ankle. Kenny Dorsey of Miami goes 42 yards here to Santana Moss. Miami strikes first to grab the lead, and Dave Meyer for Virginia Tech just struggled.
Well, he didn't have enough reps all season. He made a poor read on that option. He doesn't have the experience, and this guy wasn't healthy. Unless you take a thoroughbred like this and keep him healthy, he can't make the play. Goes down right there. As you see, Michael Vick really shouldn't even have been playing at all. Got no reps this week. Really rusty. This wasn't a great Virginia Tech team. Without Michael Vick, it's not a great Virginia Tech team.
Yeah, he had a couple of turnovers. Dorsey then to Jeremy Shockey. He takes this one in for the touchdown right before halftime, 21-0, and Michael Vick could do nothing about it. 41-21. Virginia Tech's 5-game winning streak over Miami comes to an end. Santana Moss with 154 yards receiving through the air. But again, as you mentioned, Virginia Tech going to the championship game last year. They were not as good a team this year, and that was clearly showed today without Michael Vick.
That's right. This team is so dependent on Michael Vick. If he's not in, they're not a top 10 team, and it was clear today. They also had 3 turnovers. You can't have those kind of turnovers in a big game like this that's played on an away field.
Take a look at the BCS standings now. You know Virginia Tech is out of this race. But here's the thing people are going to talk about. Look at Florida State. They play Clemson. We'll talk about that in a moment. Miami likely could stay behind Florida State despite the fact that they have beat Miami, and that's going to cause a lot of confusion and angry people.
Well, anytime you've got a lot of teams with one loss, these teams are going to have questions. Miami has got to look to the strength of schedule and to the computer rankings. That's where they get hurt. These rankings are not emotional. They're not sentimental. They don't care if you beat a team or you lost to somebody else. It's still one loss in the rankings' eyes.
What about tonight? Bowden Bowl 2, a little different than last year.
Well, I don't think the BCS championship for both teams is in the makings because Clemson lost last week. But this is still for the ACC championship. The winner goes to a BCS game, and Tommy Bowden will have Clemson ready to play.
All right, Florida State still has to play. Florida playing today against Vanderbilt, a team that kind of gave them a hard time last year, and Steve Spurrier looking on and watches wide receiver Taylor Jacobs take the ball and go 4 yards on this end around, and this one ties the game. Vandy had scored first, but from then Rex Grossman goes to work.
Well, he's their quarterback now, but you know, he's still just a freshman. Had 3 interceptions last week. He threw 2 more this game. They still don't have a great offense because he's so young. If you forget, he's still just a redshirt freshman.
Florida wins this one easily, and again, pointing to that game with Florida State towards the end of the season, you see the touchdown passes for Grossman. Iowa State and Kansas State, Josh Scobie, 28 yards on this run. He had another touchdown run, and really, Kansas State just made Iowa State look terrible. In a season, they're having a pretty good year.
Well, you wondered if Kansas State would rebound from that tough loss to Texas A&M last week. Had 580 yards of offense.
Michigan State and Ohio State. Brent Johnson sacks. Jeff Smoker forces the fumble. Mike Doss returns it 73 yards for the touchdown.
Well, you know, you're struggling at Michigan State, and you can't have 4 turnovers against Ohio State. They had 4 turnovers, and because of it, they lost the football game.
All right, West Virginia loses to Syracuse today, but the news after the game is Don Nehlen announcing he will retire. He has 199 wins. I know that is your alma mater. You have great affection for Don Nehlen.
Well, I sure do. You know, I know he hates going out 4-4-4-2. He'd like to go out a winner, but this guy is the winningest coach in West Virginia history. It's my alma mater. I was raised in Morgantown. He gave them some of their greatest moments, 2 11-0 seasons. You know, I hate to see him go, but I hope he goes out and retires and has a great enjoyment living there in Morgantown.
And get him 200 before he retires. Let's remind you what we have coming your way next week. We begin things at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Some of you will see #1 Oklahoma, a tough one on the road against Texas A&M, or a game in the Big Ten, either Penn State against Michigan or Purdue against Michigan State. Check local listings for the game in your area. Then at 4 o'clock Pacific time on the West Coast only, UCLA against #7 Washington. Stick around. We'll continue with more of the MSN Halftime Report in a moment. Well, you know all about the 4 horsemen. How about the 27-28 horsemen?
No, don't laugh, John. I go over there every Friday and sneak a ride on the carousel. I'm not too big. I managed to get in.
Exercise any way you can. This is the MSN Halftime Report. John Saunders and Terry Bowden here. Northwestern trailing Michigan at halftime. Both these teams with their eyes on the Rose Bowl because Purdue could stumble.
I know Michigan has so much talent. You've got to say this is a Michigan team. They can score with Anthony Thomas. He has over 100 yards. David Terrell has 3 touchdown receptions, but you never can knock out Northwestern. They were down 21 points last week, came back threw a Hail Mary pass at the end of the game and won the game as time ran out.
All right, elsewhere, #1 Oklahoma has moved up from #20 at the start of the season. This guy, a big reason why. Josh Heupel's making a run at the Heisman Trophy. He hooks up with Curtis Fagan a couple of times in this game.
This is an offensive powerhouse. They can score so many ways. Josh Heupel, really one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best in the country right now, and Baylor really never had a chance. Bob Stoops, who just got a new $1.4 million contract, will earn it next week against Texas A&M.
He may have already earned some of the money, at least 3 touchdown receptions for Curtis Fagan. You see Heupel again. Is he moving to the forefront in the Heisman? You think so or not?
You got to say it because he's the only quarterback that's undefeated, and they've got to say something for somebody that doesn't lose.
Yeah, without question. But again, next week will be a tough one against A&M. Nebraska got them last week. Eric Crouch here. 3 yards in the touchdown run. Crouch doing it on the ground, also through the air, hooking up with Tracy Wistrom.
Well, he had 3 touchdowns today, but you know what? They still have to get more touchdown and rushing yards out of their tailbacks to have the kind of year they need to have, and in the second half we're going to see.
Look at the rushing yardage at the bottom of that stat. 35-3 and 4 rushing touchdowns and 1 through the air for Eric Crouch. Arizona and Washington. Washington looking at the Rose Bowl, or perhaps even more. Leo Mills, 10 yards on this run. Point after was no good. Arizona had a 9-0 lead. But Marcus Tuiasosopo showing the footwork.
Well, I tell you, the thing about Washington is don't count them out in the second half. They've been behind 4 times in the fourth quarter and come back and win all 4 of those games.
Mike Detweiler from 4 yards out for Arizona. And at halftime, Arizona did have the lead. They're set to start, and they have started the third quarter now. 16-10 the score there. Oregon State, what a year they're having. 4-1 in the conference, 7-1 overall, and blasting out Cal 31-19 at halftime.
Well, if you don't stop Ken Simonton for 100 yards, they're going to lose to Oregon State. He's the first Pac-10 player ever to rush for 1,000 his freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons.
Oregon at #8. Maurice Morris has a touchdown run, but they're all tied up at 7 apiece.
I tell you, yeah, but you got to like Oregon in the second half. They're 16-2 in November in the last 7 years, and you win your conference in November.
All right, in Conference USA, Louisville facing Southern Miss. Southern Miss just rolls in this conference. They've had no problem since joining it. 3-0 right now. 21-14, though, they trail at halftime.
Well, Southern Miss just doesn't have an offense. They're second in the nation in scoring defense, but the winner here goes to the Conference Championship Liberty Bowl. Southern Miss is going to need to get some offense and score some points.
We'll keep you up to date on that one throughout the second half. Texas A&M, perhaps looking ahead to Oklahoma next week?
We call it a sandwich game. They had Kansas State last week. They won. They've got Oklahoma next week, and if they beat Oklahoma, they could be the Southern Division champions in the Big 12 and put a whole wrench in everything.
Mississippi State and Kentucky. Jared Lorenzen, he's the quarterback for Kentucky as a freshman. Dusty Bonner was chased out of there. He went to Valdosta State, and he may be smiling today. Here's an interception. Lorenzen threw 4 interceptions. Now has thrown more INTs than touchdown passes this year.
You got to question Hal Mummy's decision to run off Dusty Bonner. Comes back and goes with a freshman. He throws 18 interceptions this year. Tons of yardage, but tons of interceptions. They haven't won a conference game this year.
All right, and 2-7 overall. Alabama and LSU. 14-7 LSU. Josh Booty with 2 touchdown passes.
Yeah, but the big story here today was Mike Dubose. He was fired. He was fired earlier this week, and you have to wonder what kind of preparation they can have, what kind of confidence they can have in the second half with that loss of Mike Dubose.
But think about that. Alabama wins out. They could go to the conference championship game.
Well, that's the crazy thing about the SEC and the BCS.
Yeah, without question. All right, earlier today on ABC, you could call it the Tiger Watch. It was third-round coverage of the Tour Championship. For more on that, Mike Tirico.
John, thanks. The cliche on the PGA Tour is Saturday is moving day. This was separation day. We saw 4 of the world's best move away from the pack at the Tour Championship, especially Tiger Woods. 4 under par round of 66. He was very solid with his irons, making 7 birdies, almost a hole-in-one on the par 3-6. He shares the lead with BJ Singh heading into tomorrow's final round. Woods goes for his 10th win this calendar year. We'll see him start on ESPN, and our coverage concludes for 3 hours tomorrow on ABC.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. And again, Tiger Woods, I know that's where I'll be sitting watching that. Stick around. The second half still to come. Michigan and Northwestern, both with sights on the Rose Bowl. David Terrell with 3 touchdown receptions from Drew Henson, 28-23. Skaters out in full force in Central Park, which means the holidays must be around the corner. John Saunders and Terry Bowden, you got your skates? Want to go down?
I'm a Southerner. No way I'm going to ice skate right now, I'm telling you.
Only ice for you is in the glass.
Yes.
All right, teams thinking about their season skating way. Tennessee, one of them until they beat Alabama and South Carolina. Scare against Memphis today. Scott Scherer going 24 yards to Billy Kendall, and Memphis had the lead, but Tennessee kicker Alex Walsh gets the win here.
Well, this shouldn't surprise you. Memphis plays Tennessee great every year. Last year, Tennessee won 17-16. This year, another like score.
Well, Penn State, Rashard Casey here in overtime, and this is a pick by Ryan Henson after the tip. Iowa, for the second time in 5 years, wins in Happy Valley, and now at best 6-6 for Penn State this year.
Yeah, but you get rid of the distractions. They had a nice comeback, but this is still not a very good team at Penn State. They've got a long way to go. It's going to take an off season to correct the problem.
They got some good news this week. Rashard Casey involved, or allegedly involved, in an altercation with an off-duty police officer this off-season. The grand jury has decided not to indict him.
Well, every coach is used to having his coaching question, and Joe Paterno has his coaching question. He's used to that. But when you question a person's judgment, moral judgment, leadership, you really attack him. Joe Paterno made the right decisions at Penn State.
Joe Paterno vindicated as much as Rashard Casey, even though he's struggling with everything else this season. Right now, back out to the game.
And here we're enjoying the Northwestern Wildcat Marching Band, the director, Daniel J. Ferris. We'll have the second half here on ABC after this message and a word from our ABC station.